Hello, welcome to another episode of The Healthy Enterprise. If you're a return listener, thanks for coming back. And if it's your first episode, then welcome. Today I'm going to be talking to Dr. Jessicca Rege. Yes, just like the music. And this is a quote. She is passionate about transformative research that enables us to help the patients we all serve. She's the CEO at SUS Clinicals, where they have some innovative platforms using genetically modified pigs to bridge the gap between mice and human trials in cancer research. If that doesn't pique your interest, I don't know what will. But this is going to be a great chat. So let's get started. Jess, thank you for joining me today. I'm excited to have you on this episode. So you can share a lot with us about what you're doing and your expertise at SUS Clinicals. I'm curious to hear more, and I'm sure listeners are curious to hear more as well. So yeah, just give us a bit about yourself and introduce yourself and let us know, fill us in.
Yeah, sure. So, Dr. Jessicca Rege, I was trained on the bench. All of my years of research has been in cancer research. I know everyone is always impacted by this type of disease. And I guess I got the itch really on when I started working on my master's degree and even into my PhD. And then, postdoc as well as moving into industry. I've spent my entire career working on cancer and how to get better assets or products, or we're going to talk about SUS Clinicals, tools that will enable researchers to move their most promising assets into the clinic is what I'm working on now. So, by training, PhD in pharmaceutical sciences, spent over 25 years developing drugs and leading R&D research organizations in the large pharmas as well as small biotech companies.
Oh, interesting. So you're also a hematologist too, right?
So I trained in my postdoc in hematology.
Interesting. Quick side story. My wife, about a year and a half ago, had a stem cell transplant.
Oh.
Yes. Very interesting journey, and spent a lot of time with hematologists over that time frame.
I would be sure. And so it's great to hear that, science has helped her, it sounds like. So
incredible. Yeah. What a process. And, where it's at today is very different than where it was at 20, 30 years ago. But magic. And so I got immersed in this world for a year and a half of during her journey. So it was for people who have never really spent a lot of time in the hospital environment or in any kind of treatment, it was a pretty interesting immersement for us. So I have a whole new respect for the whole industry, for the whole process, and for people that understand what this is, because it's a huge part of oncology, right?
Yeah. No, it is. And I think, I'm, as I mentioned, I'm really passionate about making an impact. I always say when I leave this world, hopefully that will be a long time from now, but I really want someone to be able to say, hey, she made a difference in either helping get a product to, the finish line, helping aid a tool to get additional assets or drugs to the finish line, helping build better leaders, or just overall making a difference in just helping people understand cancer. Because I think people like you, right? You were thrown into it, and no one wants to choose that world. But cancer impacts all of us. And so to me, when someone says, I have cancer or my friend was diagnosed with cancer, my first thing is empathy. But my second thing is, let me help them through their journey in whatever way I can, whether it's through my academics and my research, or if it's just being compassionate and breaking down these really tough words and acronyms. Sometimes, we hear the acronyms or my son will tell me an acronym, and my first thought is I go to something cancer because that's been my whole world. And he's talking about, a new type of bubble gum or something. So it's for me, it's just so different.
Yeah.
So I just think it's always so important. We have to, put our empathy, and it's so complex, right? It's so crazy. I've spent my entire life in it. So it's not that scary for me.
Yeah, you're right. It's interesting because when you come into it sort of like out of, from a layman's perspective, it is like, wow, there is so much information being chucked at you very quickly. In fact, I think we were told so many times, oh, well, don't Google anything or don't go, it's like they want the less the better. But, unfortunately, my wife is not designed that way. So she has to know everything. So before she even got in there, she knew almost every drug that was going to be administered and what all the different procedures were because she just could not. She could not. She went to the University for biology, so she could not actually ignore it. She had to know what was happening to her, but at the same time, it was also still super overwhelming. So to look at that from a patient perspective, it's like, yeah, it's how do you get patients through that process, you know, in a
You
more
know,
efficient.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think the the patients in the cancer world are far more knowledgeable than I've seen in other therapies. And again, I think part of it is because, people still see it as a scary word. And so they're going to research
Yeah.
and do everything. But I find, patients like your wife are the ones that are helping us on the science side get to a better space, whether it's helping them understand or even helping to bring better, assets or tools to
Hmm.
the clinic. So good for her. I'm glad that she did that research before she comes in, because no one should actually just automatically hand over, their body, their treatment, and everything without having the questions and the dialogue that makes them feel comfortable.
Exactly. Yeah. And of course, that's front line we're talking about. So patient treatment. But if you take it back, several hundred or 1,000 feet, you've got in the background all this research and development. I mean, we hear all the time, cancer research, support cancer research, donate to cancer research. But I don't think anybody really understands what goes into cancer research. But that's where you live.
Yes.
So tell us about Seuss Clinicals and what you guys are doing there.
Yeah. So we're becoming a leader in large animal oncology models. So we have an FDA cleared Oncopig, and this platform provides a highly translational preclinical model that enables cancer researchers to accelerate their most promising therapeutics or devices into human clinical trials. Now, this is the only large animal research platform which can reliably replicate human cancers on demand. So we can actually, what we can do within one animal system, we're able to test efficacy. So does the drug work? Safety. So what are the side effects associated with that drug or that device? And then any metabolic effects. So how does the drug metabolize, or how is it eliminated? And what does that cause? The other thing that our model does is we're able to actually look at comorbidities associated with cancer. So as you know, most people these days don't just have cancer, but they may have cancer and diabetes, or cancer
Right.
and their liver cancer is associated with like a cirrhotic liver. And so we're able to also put comorbidities within our model. And
Oh,
all of
interesting.
this, one, is to enable researchers to move as quick as possible, but also reduce the cost and reduce the overall risk.
Does this align? So first, actually, I had another question. What did you say? Oncopig?
Oncopig, yes.
ONCA pig, right?
ONCO for
Oh,
oncology, and
okay.
then pig.
Gotcha. Okay. Gotcha. That's a great term. I just wanted to clarify that because I heard it and I was like, I think I read it somewhere on your website, but I wanted to clarify what that was. Um, does this align somehow with precision medicine or custom medicines? Is that kind of where this sort of fits in really well?
Yeah. So, everything in oncology, I would say, is moving to precision based medicine. I mean, we've been, you know, understanding more and more throughout the years that I've been doing R&D. But yes, this Oncopig does enable us to do precision medicine. Like when we think about a certain protein that's driving the way your disease is looking, the best kind of examples that I can give that a lot of people know, like certain breast cancers are associated with certain proteins, and those drugs that target those proteins are, depending on what you have, is what you'll be prescribed by your oncologist. So yes, we're able to, within our Oncopig model, be able to put in a particular gene, or put in even a mutation of that gene, in order for us to really understand what is happening when you put your therapeutic in. We also can just have a tumor, and maybe a device company wants to understand a new way of delivering a drug directly to the tumor, or they want to understand if they can actually use a particular device to cut out the tumor better, and we can see that we have better margins for
Right.
surgeons. So this is a platform based on the pig that enables any type of, whether it be a therapeutic, a device, or maybe we're even looking at a new type of biomarker or a diagnostic. We can
Right.
actually explore helping them.
And also treatment outcomes too, like side effects, things like
Yeah.
that. I think I read that right.
Yeah, so the safety, so those side effects, and then the big thing, and the big differentiator of us, if you think about how we traditionally do R&D, is I like to tell everybody I've cured a lot of mice in my career. I mean, a ton of mice in my career, but I've yet to see that translate into the clinic.
Right.
And the reason that is because, we typically in cancer, we test efficacy in mice because those are our best models that we have now.
Right.
And then we test safety in non-human primates or monkeys or dogs. The problem is we don't have one model system where we can test it all, the
Right.
efficacy and the safety. And that's what we've been able to build with our transgenic Oncopig.
Okay. Let's explain that. A transgenic oncopig.
I know,
Completely
doesn't it?
new set of words for me that I've never
I know
actually.
it's a. I'll tell you. The best way to describe it, because I come from not a family of a ton of scientists, including my son, who is going to be a senior in high school next year. The best way to describe it is how he describes my profession. He calls me a mutant pig farmer. And so, what a transgenic pig is, I know you're going to go into a whole different set of conversations with that one. But what a transgenic oncopig is, what we've done. So, our co founder and chief scientific officer, Larry Shook, he led the mapping of the pig genome back in 2012.
Mm.
And what he was able to show is that the pig has a 98% genetic map to a human. And so,
Wow.
what we were able to do is, in the human, there's particular genes that drive cancer very commonly. So, what our transgenic Oncopig is we've been able to modify the genome and put these two genes into our pig. And then we put what we call a stop codon in front of these genes. So these pigs are walking around pigs that have the ability to generate cancer as soon as we inject a solution in them. And
Wow.
so that's what I mean by it's a genetically modified. So we've mapped the
Right.
genome, we've added in two dominant genes that are associated with driving cancer, and
Mm-hmm.
then we add a solution, and that solution turns on the cancer in whatever organ we inject that solution in.
Wow. That's fascinating that
I
you can
know
do
it's
that.
mind blowing, actually. I
Yeah,
think
that
about
is
it
mind
as a
blowing.
scientist, but
Now you're a
it,
mutant pig farmer.
now I am. And so the great part, because we've been able to genetically modify these pigs, we've been able to show that it's this construct is stable. And that's what we utilize to work with the health authorities to ensure that we can actually sell these pigs for those researchers to ask those important questions. And as I mentioned earlier, we can answer all of those potential questions of, is it safe, does it work,
Right.
and how does it metabolize, or how do we get rid of it within our body system, because
Right.
these are all really important questions before we put it in humans, that we need to understand.
Okay, I have to ask, do these pigs act like regular pigs?
They not only act like regular pigs, they are actually bred within the same facility. They just have to be housed in a different place because they are considered transgenic, and
Right.
we always need to make sure that they don't get into the food chain.
Oh, I see. Right. Right. Wow. So interesting. That is crazy. I did not expect this. Okay. So, I love the mutant pig farmer phrase. That's right.
I will tell you, I need to, like, my son needs to be a marketer or something. But it was so funny when one day I think he was sitting there, and I don't know if someone asked him, or usually I'm thinking, oh, shouldn't my son be really proud of me being a CEO, and I'm a doctor, like, shouldn't this
Yeah.
be really important? No,
No.
he just basically said, oh, my mom's a mutant pig farmer, and it's like, technically he's right.
He's right. And anywhere a young person can use the word mutant in a phrase, well, he's that's a winning combination right
I
there.
think so. So it is, it's kind of my new thing now. Everyone's always like, I guess that's true. It's the best way, but he was exactly right. We mutate the genome of the pig
Yeah.
and we breed pigs.
So if 10 years ago or 15 years ago someone was telling your fortunes and was said, "Oh, one day you're going to be a mutant pig farmer," you probably wouldn't have believed them.
It's funny. Never would I have believed them. I grew up in Virginia, around farms and everything, and everybody knows Virginia hams probably. So
Right.
never would I have thought that I've come full circle from growing up eating Virginia ham to now I'm genetically modifying pigs to help cancer research. So you never know where your life is going to end or what you're going to do to make a difference in this world. So hopefully, all of this is was all meant to be.
Yeah, well, it sounds like. I mean, you came through your education and then were you practicing patient facing at some point at any point in your
So
career?
I so I'm a PhD by training, but I did work within the hospital, construct. I put myself through grad school being a phlebotomist
Oh,
and
wow.
med tech. Yeah, I've been a lot of patient facing,
Yeah.
but I'm not a trained medical oncologist.
Right, right. But that you've had that experience where you and of course everyone, like you said, there isn't anybody who hasn't had some sort of experience with cancer or with someone they love or
Oh
experience
yeah.
that process in their life. So everyone's very familiar with it, but actually being front line, knowing the patients and that your your whole you know framework is based on helping people, improving lives, saving lives, reducing treatment outcomes as far as impact on health and recovery. So when did this come up? When did you kind of go, oh, this is where I want to go, and how did you make that shift for yourself?
I think it was relatively early in my graduate school years. I think I became so fascinated with cancer, and basically we all have it walking around. If you think about illness, all it is a mutated cell. Something got turned on, something
Mm-hmm.
went haywire, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was just so fascinated by that, going, how could something that gets triggered turn into something so impactful to us, and what can I do to make a difference? And so I started early on looking at different biomarkers. Could we detect things earlier? Did some research in prostate cancer. I then went on to glioblastoma work, which again, another deadly disease. And I was like, why? And then I went on to, and I think we talked about this earlier. I did a postdoctoral fellowship in pediatric hematology. And I think I would say in those early years of my PhD and my postdoc, I was like, I need to do whatever I can to get better drugs to patients, or speed the process in getting these into the clinic, or make better decisions when we're in the clinic, because I'm really good at executing and I'm really good at strategizing on how to get these drugs in and through the clinic, right? Because if you think about when you're treating a cancer patient, and you probably experience this with your wife, it's not just one doctor. It's a culmination of doctors, and it's kind of an orchestra, right? It's not just the flute section. It's, well, you've got the radiologist, you've got the oncologist, you've got your general, doctors, you've got your surgical oncology. You've got to orchestrate it all within the interests of the patients. And I saw this, I would say, early on in my career. And then when I flipped over to the industry side, it's similar, right? When you're working in industry, well, you have a statistician, you have a regulatory person, you have a clinical person, you have a project manager, you have the drug supply people. I realized very early on in my career, I'm really good at orchestrating with the line of sight that the patient is the one we're all serving and working for. Because I just was like, okay, if someone would come to me, I used to laugh when my team used to come to me and be like, Jess, the SOP says we've got to do X, Y, Z, and you're doing X, Z, Y. And I'm like, okay, I get, I'm not a rule breaker. I'm a very rule abiding, citizen, and even in the workplace. But it would fascinate me that people were more interested in the policies that we had versus there's a patient every minute that needs our drug, that we can give them one more birthday or one more graduation or something that's impactful in their life. But we're worried about XYZ versus XZY.
Right.
And so I realized what I'm really good at is orchestrating. I'm really good at being that conductor and saying, okay, if you do this, you can do this, and you could do this. And that's really what allowed me to continue to kind of evolve throughout my career, and ultimately to be where I'm at now. Because even when I look at the lens that I'm playing now, the reason I'm at the perfect position is I know what it takes to get a drug into the clinic and through the clinic and ultimately approved. I started all my career on the bench working with animal research. I'm perfectly now aligned to bridge the two, to be able to say, hey, have you thought about this? And this is a great model because of this.
Right.
And so I find that becomes the most important aspect. And again, I think all the way back to the question how you started, I just got so interested in it's not just a simple disease.
Right.
And it's not going to be cured or impacted in any way if we also execute in a simplistic manner. And so I wanted to actually use both of those, the sophistication of the science and understanding, and then the sophistication of the execution. And that's allowed me to kind of really find my, I would say, perfect little point, being my mutant pig farmer self.
Is that MPF would have to go after CEO?
Yeah. I know. I could add extra letters to my name,
And everyone would always ask, what's MPF? And then you'd have to tell them. And then
I like that idea. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe
You might
that's going to
have
be my
to.
next
It might have to
open.
go on your business card at least.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you say that. AI, right? AI is super super cool, and it's the hottest thing since sliced bread. And I
Yeah.
love AI is really impacting us everywhere. I would say in day to day, but it's really impactful in cancer. But
Hmm.
the other day I was talking to an investor and I said, "Hey, I've been doing AI for long before it became this hot topic. So, in order for us to generate our pigs, we use AI all the time. It's called artificial insemination.
Oh.
So, so you know, you just have to
Right.
actually work and own what AI. I mean, everybody. We were talking about acronyms earlier. What
Yes,
your
they mean
acronym
something
and
to
what
different.
my acronym are different.
I love that. Are you guys? So you are using AI? That is one of my questions. Actually, you are heavily using AI
So,
in
not
your protocols.
necessarily with what
I
our
mean, AI is in artificial intelligence and artificial insemination. We
so
know you got the one. Do you got the other?
now, within our current, I would say, business model, no, but within the cancer research space,
Sure.
we do a lot of AI, and I actually, my other, I would say, side project, because again, I'm passionate about cancer research and making an impact in general in the cancer space. I have another company where I work as a fractional chief medical officer,
Oh, really?
and it uses AI to do systematic literature reviews. So, with a
Oh,
couple points and clicks of a button, you're able to actually have the latest and greatest of clinical trial in a very salient, digested manner.
oh, wow. What's that company?
That's called OncoScope AI.
Oh, cool. And you're the CMO.
I'm the chief medical officer, so
Oh, not the
I
chief marketing officer.
no, the chief medical officer there. So I work to ensure from the medical accuracy from the oncology side, it's correct. So the CEO there, Anna Forsyth, she's also another powerful female beast to reckon with. That her and I have been working together for many years. We've known each other, for almost 20 years now.
Amazing. So you're now something you brought up before is that you know XYZ and you're doing ZYX, and is that a quality of yours in your when you're wearing your CEO hat, that you're questioning status quo, that you're wondering, why do we do it this way when we could do it this way? Well, like you say, sometimes policies get made and processes get put in place, and everyone gets very comfortable with them, and they work for a while until someone comes along and says, "Well, why do we do it that way? Why don't we do it this way?" And everyone says, "Well, I don't know. We just do it that way." And when no, is that a quality you think that you bring as a CEO that is critical in where you were at? And do you recognize that as a quality of yourselves?
Yeah, so I would say I am known as a disruptive leader.
Oh, okay.
Um, and
That's a
again,
good thing too, right?
yeah,
That's yeah,
and again, you have to come in because you have to come in and look at everything you have. I mean, just because it's been done that way for the past 10 years doesn't mean it's the right way.
right.
And I'm a firm believer of also, I'm a very authentic leader as well, but I'm also an open door leader. I want the most junior level staff to bring me what they think of their greatest idea. Now, maybe I'm not going to be able to implement it, but maybe there are aspects of it
Right.
that could make the business run more efficient or better. But yeah, I would say I am well known as a disruptive leader. I don't necessarily think titles nor policies or practices, not that they're wrong, but we should always look at them and are there ways of doing them better.
Hmm.
And I'm also one to not have a problem if my opinion is differing from someone at the top. I don't mind stating my opinion. Doesn't mean they have to take my opinion,
Right.
but I've always been one to say, okay, I just thought I would offer this up. You're the CEO at the time, when I was in that portion of my career. So I'm just a firm believer of, you have to be disruptive. If not, you're going to always be behind.
Right. And when you made that shift into CEO role, what was your biggest challenges in that process, and how did you kind of get through that? Because I mean, it's a transition especially from where you came from to being a CEO of a company. Yes, you're dealing with the same subject matter, but your day to day actually changes quite dramatically, doesn't it?
Yeah. So, sometimes I want to get way down in the weeds and realize,
Yeah,
okay, that's not my job.
you
Um,
want to put on the lab coat and
yeah, yeah. I think sometimes it's a way of hiding. It's like, let's go back to that world that didn't seem so scary some days. Um, you know, I think the biggest challenge that I had, and I think we all have this, but it's imposter syndrome.
mm-hmm.
I
Oh
I, I
yeah.
know people don't like to talk about it, but I still have it day to day. I'm like, "Ugh,
Oh
I
yeah.
think I did that okay, or
Yeah.
I think I can do this. I'm not,
And then you're like terrified to ask somebody, "Did I do this okay?"
I know, and because you're like, oh my gosh, I'm the top.
Yeah, and they're like, "Oh, she just asked me if she did okay." Like, I'm just going to tell her she did fine because I'm not telling her she did a shitty job.
And it is. I mean, and it's funny because I do even now. I have a lot of one-on-ones with my team at all levels of the organization, and part of it is, one, I want to get to know them, but the other part is to kind of let them know that I am like them. Like,
Hmm.
that I'm a person too. Just because I'm the CEO doesn't mean that I'm not normal.
Right.
And so I think, the imposter syndrome is always going to be with us. And I don't know. I talked to some of my other, like, I would say, female friends. Sometimes I do say that I'm very confident in being in the CEO world, but the CEO world is not prolific with females sometimes. And
No.
sometimes I go into meetings and I'm like, okay, there's only a couple of us here. So sometimes I would say I use it to my advantage because I can use some humor or joke about
Right.
it, for people to more, be aware. But then sometimes I'm like, would they listen to me, or would they interpret it differently if it came from someone that's saying the same thing as a male? You just never know.
No. Tragically, it's probably true, but maybe we're still working through that. I think as a society, it's like it's been, it's not. I think it's generational. It's a part of our society that has just become that is who tends to sit in those seats is mostly men, and I think there should be more women personally,
Well,
but
and I think in some cases, COVID knocked us back a little bit,
yeah.
and I don't mean it in a bad, a negative way, but if you think about it, we were all trapped up in our houses at
Hmm.
home, and if we had young children, I mean, I remember my kid, when he was really young, he wasn't going to run to his daddy. He was always running to his mom. And again,
100%.
that's just kind of a natural age. Not to say, the kids don't love or bond with their father. It's just a
It's a
different kind
different
of,
role, yeah.
you know. And so I do think it knocked us back, because I think a lot of females kind of had to, play that role, and it. You just never know. I will tell you. Some days I'm like, oh, look how far we've come, and then other days I'm like, it's just a generational, and then other days I'm like, darn it, COVID didn't,
Yeah.
leave us. I mean, I think COVID did some great things for us, in the sense of, even if I look at the company I'm at, our labs are in Chicago, we're incorporated in Ohio, and I sit in Massachusetts.
Right.
Wow, look at what we've been able to do in
Major
generating,
advances.
establishing, and setting up a company, all being
Yeah.
in different geographies. So there's a lot of pros too.
Yeah, that's definitely a feather in the COVID cap for sure. Yeah. But yeah, you're right. And we're scratching the surface on an issue that as that is got a lot more discussion behind it. But I think, being a woman in a role like yours, did you have you experienced any pushback or any sort of do you seem like your ideas are embraced and your concepts are embraced and are you sensing any of that?
I would say even, I've had very positive experiences throughout
Nice.
my career and even now, currently to this day. So I can't say there's any negative impact. I will tell you though, I spend a lot of time in trying to kind of cultivate those next generation of female leaders.
Nice.
Um, and I am a little bit of a rare breed. My mom and dad will definitely say I'm a rare breed, but I don't mind. Ever since I've been young, I've always stood up for what I think is right, or I don't mind vocalizing my opinion. And again, it's not to say that I expect people to do but it's like I'm used to being in a family in an environment where a healthy banter leads to a better outcome.
Hmm.
So for me to speak up, it's just me speaking up in the, hey, I'm going to bring an idea. It may be good, but if we all talk about it, it can turn into something great.
Right.
Um, and so I'm used to that environment, but I'm very cognizant. And I would say, this is probably 3 4 years ago. A young female was pregnant at the time, and I was helping to mentor her, and she was actually worried about going on maternity leave and coming back and not being offered particular projects.
Mm.
And it was funny because I'm going, oh my gosh, when I was your age, I could see that being a challenge, but that's not the case anymore, I would say now. But it's funny that still in her mindset, she had thought, well, she's going to be out for eight
Yeah.
to 12 weeks tending to, her newborn. But does that mean that when
Setback
she
to her
comes back,
career. Yeah.
she's not going to get the first priority over her peers
Yeah.
because, so I do think it's always in the back of
Yeah.
I
It's a
would
bit
say a young
systemic. Yeah.
mom's
Yeah.
mind.
For
Um,
sure.
and I hate to hear those things. And I constantly tell, people, I think you have to speak your mind and you have to be authentic. I mean, I talk about my son to my teams or even in, podcasts and stuff like this because I'm a mom first. I'm always going to
Right.
be a mom first.
Right.
And it's never held me back or impacted anything in my career. I will tell you, I missed some great opportunities when my child was younger to see some moments in his life that I will always regret, but I always make time to be a mom first.
Great point. Now let's talk about, so you're at the helm of the ship. How are you steering growth now, and what does that look like for SUS Clinicals? Like, is it, where are you at in the trajectory of the company now, and where you want it to be?
So currently we're trying to close out our seed round, which will enable us, within the next about 18 months to get to some proof points from our R&D pipeline because my vision and goal is to be the best large animal model based company. So we want to continue to build models that enable researchers to answer their questions and build better and better models. I want to continue to remain capital light. I'm not wanting to become the next CRO. I want to have all the CROs utilizing our models with all the potential customers. To me, that will make the greatest impact overall for the greater good, but as well for us as an organization.
Is there a lot of competition in your field, in your area, in large animal research?
So there are there are other large animal models such as dogs and non-human
Right.
primates. Now, we are one of the only large animal models that I mentioned that can actually um, produce tumors on demand.
Right.
That is a big differentiating step of everyone else. There
Yeah.
are within the other large animals, they can induce tumors.
Right.
It just takes a longer time and their induction success rate is a lot lower. So we have 100% success rate
Wow.
in being able to induce tumors in our pigs, where some of the other models, again, it may take 6 months and they may have like a 50% success rate. So we don't have to induce 10 pigs to get one
Wow.
pig with a tumor. All of our pigs will have tumors, 100% of them. Now, if you want 4 lesions versus, 3 lesions, we always just say inject 5 times, you'll have 4 tumors, just to ensure that the,
Wow.
the amount of tumors that you want within the organ, you have as many.
So are they breaking down the door? Can you keep up with demand? Is it if you're the only one that can do this and word's getting out, how will you manage that growth?
So part of me coming on board for the company was to kind of bridge that gap, right? I talked
Hmm.
about my background. I'd started in the preclinical arena, and I've been taking drugs to the finish line and doing and leading R&D organizations for about 25 years. So part of our biggest challenge was and is adoption and awareness. So we have done no outbound marketing. And we have generated over $4 million in total revenue for our Oncopigs, $2 million as Seuss Clinicals, because prior to it being Seuss Clinicals, we had it out of the university. So we were selling Oncopigs out of the university.
Oh, I see.
So that being said, all of our revenue has been no outbound marketing. It was people coming to us.
Right.
Now we're pushing more of an outbound marketing and trying to push for adoption and awareness. That's our biggest hurdle right now. So we're trying to make sure that we're in front of the right conferences with regards to oncology conferences. So, pharmaceutical companies as well as device companies are aware of us. And so we believe the uptake is coming in. And then the other thing that I've shifted the organization to, what I just mentioned to, is we're using channel growth partners such as contract research organizations to be able to help us not only by doing the work with our customers, but also bringing new customers to the table with us. And so that's one of the, I would say, model shifts that I've done for the company, because
Hmm.
we were trying to take on all the work and we only have one small lab. So
Right.
now having that done by CROs, that's really been able to uptake in the business, and we're looking to continue to grow that as we move through the year.
So I just want to make sure I understand. So you're doing the research as well for clients, or like I think you said something about buying the pig and taking the pig and doing their own lab work with the pig, or is it all being in house?
No, so we focus in house to do our own R&D research to
Right.
build better and better models.
Okay. Gotcha.
We use the contract research organization, so other CROs that
Gotcha.
they have the infrastructure, the staffing, and everything. All of those, and so what we do is we sell our pigs to the customers,
Right.
such as the pharmaceutical or the device companies. And then the CRO ends up being the person that does the work
The research.
for them.
And can do that in a satellite lab somewhere else
Mm-hmm.
entirely. Okay. Yeah. So that was a good move on your part, rather than, because that's probably a bit daunting to take on all that as well.
Well, and then it's a lot more money to be able to raise capital
Yeah.
versus being able to, come in. And then the other reason why we think it's really important, not just to remain capital light, if you think about it, it also allows us an opening with regards to exit strategies, right? We could sell each of our different models to a different CRO,
Right.
and or have the CRO actually fold us into their environment. So for us, we think it's actually a positive step forward.
Very much so. Yeah. Very exciting. Very exciting. Um, and that trajectory, what's your growth timeline here? Are you looking at, what's your 5-year outlook? Where do you guys want to be in 5 years from now?
So good question. So I always, as a small biotech, 5 years is so far away, but I will do my best. So
Okay, you can go 3. How's 3? Is that better?
yeah, there you go. 3 is always a good one, but I'll tell you the 3 and the 5-year plan. So we are hoping to become a profitable company by 2027. And with that profitability, we actually believe we'll continue to be able to build better and more efficient models to be able to help. One of our models that we're building within our portfolio will allow us to build the first ever patient derived pig based models. So what I mean by that is we'll be able to take human cancer cells, so a human tumor, and put it directly into our pigs
Wow.
and then be able to test. And so one of our pipeline assets is this. We've been able to figure out a way to overcome the immune system within the pig so these tumors don't get rejected. And this is going to be then the perfect, I would say, or there's nothing perfect when it comes to animal models,
No.
but the best animal model system that will enable us to really test a human tumor within a model system. Because again, the reason pigs are so much better models is because they're so similar to a human.
Right. Yeah, isn't that's very interesting concept in itself, like how a monkey is not more like me than a pig. It just
What's
seems.
funny, so if you think genetically,
Yeah.
a monkey is like 99% genetic map. A pig is 98%. We are, it's funny. I never use this, but my chairman of the board will like this because he says this sometimes.
Okay.
But men are pigs, and technically, I'm not saying that. I'm transmitting that through
It's a
him.
quote. It's a direct quote.
Yeah. But it is true. So if you think of the animals that we typically use in clinical research, it's mice or any rodent.
Right.
We use rabbits, dogs, and monkeys and pigs.
Hmm.
So monkeys and pigs are the closest genetic map to us.
Right.
And if you think about it, right, pigs, people have pig organs walking around in
Well,
them
yeah, that
now.
I was going to say that's the only animal we can actually
Yeah,
take
but
an organ from, right? Yeah.
that's why it's a perfect model system. And so now
Amazing.
it's just really
Incredible.
building that adoption and awareness in the cancer space that this is a great model system that we've been able to build here at Seuss Clinicals.
Wow. You live in an incredible world. It's crazy. It's been fascinating to hear this all from you, and I really appreciate Jess you sharing everything with me. Any last comments? I think maybe for you, to somebody maybe walking in your shoes 10 years ago, and if they see themselves in you and see themselves in maybe sitting in your seat, any words of advice or suggestions for their journey?
My greatest suggestion I have is always lead with the glass half full and look at the positive side, because you get more no's being a CEO than you get yeses. And it's those yeses that are really going to make the difference, not only in the patients we all serve, but the staff that we all serve. Um, and ultimately, those are the moments that you remember. You don't remember all those no's.
No, that's right. It's
So,
right. That's very
yeah.
good advice. That's a very good point. You always remember the yeses, and you got to celebrate the yeses when they happen.
Yeah, and all the small yeses. I always
Yeah.
tell the teams, hey, I know we don't think this is big, but we need to celebrate. This is a
Yeah.
good thing for us. So I mean, I think we get our feelings get hurt the most with the no's. But I've learned to kind of realize a no is just the next opportunity for when that yes is going to come.
It's like a sign in the road. It's like, no, don't go that way. Go that way.
Yeah.
Right.
You
Great
don't know
advice.
where it's going to lead. And look, I would have never known if you would have asked me 10 years ago, one, would I be a CEO? Not sure. I think I always wanted to get here. But two, would I be a CEO of Seuss Clinicals? No, it wasn't, I just never thought of it in the cards. And I love what I do now. I love the impact that I'm making on the teams and hopefully on, all of the patients that are living with cancer. It just makes me happy. We have our 60% of our lives are in our work. So I want to be doing something that is meaningful to me, but also that is meaningful to the rest of the world. And so I feel like I found a nice little niche and a nice little home, and hopefully we'll continue to make a difference.
Well, thank you so much. All the best in your road ahead, and thank you so much for sharing your story with us, Jess. I really appreciate you sitting with me here today, and I know you've got a baseball game to get to pretty soon.
I know, I do.
We'll say goodbye from here, and thanks again for joining me today.
All right, thanks, Heath.
Okay, I still cannot get over the mutant pig farmer job title. She's got new letters behind her name, MPF, hilarious. And I won't be able to say the words AI now without thinking about artificial insemination. Thank you, Jess. That's great. Such a pleasure to learn about transgenic pigs, another phrase I have never heard before, and the ability to replicate human cancers for research purposes is incredible. What fascinating worlds, what fascinating things that go on out there. Jess has a tremendous amount of empathy for patients, clearly, and it's important for her that that's taken into consideration in every decision making they make. And innovative models like Seuss Clinicals, accelerating drug development, and what an incredible journey she is on. She's a disruptive leader and wants to be an inspiration for other female leaders in her space. I'm sure she's going to do just that as Seuss Clinicals moves on to grow bigger and better in the coming years in large animal research. So if you want to learn more about Seuss Clinicals, please go to their website at susclinicals.com. And, if you want to talk to Jess, you can always track her down on LinkedIn. So again, thank you very much for listening, and I hope you have a great day. Please stay healthy, and we'll talk again soon.